What's going on, everyone? Juicebags here, and welcome back to some Dungeon Defenders 2. Now, I wanted to take a moment and talk about buff beams. Now, not just buff beams, but more particularly upgrading buff beams. Now, I am going to add this video to my beginner's guides and tutorials section. However, this is more like a tip than some sort of a tutorial. Now, as all the fans in Dungeon Defenders 1, the original game, know, buff beams are quite beastly, and it's one of the first things you always want to upgrade right away. Now, that is not the case with Dungeon Defenders 2. Now, although each defense will scale slightly differently depending on how they react to defense power, for this example we're going to be using archers. So you see we got 3 archers here, 1 just plain, and then 2 of them with a buff beam. Now all of these are currently at tier 1, including my vanilla archer as well. Now, let's look at the vanilla archer is at 35,000 damage per second. Not too shabby. Now, when we look at the archer that has the buff beam, 56,469 damage per second. Now, a massive increase. By all means, the buff beam did its job and is adding just huge fashion. Now, besides the damage that is scaling off of the defense power for this archer, you notice that the attack rate at 1.32 seconds. Now, if we look over at the vanilla archer, it's 1.65. So, the buff beam sped this archer up, and that's a big part of the increased damage you're going to get off of this. Now, this particular benefit is really one of the biggest aspects of the buff beam in Dungeon Defenders 2. Just by placing it down, you're getting the largest benefit per mana usage that you can. Now, of course, on some maps, you're going to be upgrading everything, particularly like an Onslaught. Everything's going to be tier 5 by the time it's all done. Most maps, there just isn't enough green mana available to get everything fully upgraded. So we're going to take a look at what you should upgrade first right now. Now, if we take the approach that we would have in the original Dungeon Defenders and we spent our first bit of 50 green mana on upgrading that buff beam, that is going to increase this archer to 57,541 damage per second, which is an increase of 1,072 DPS. Now, if on this example we took our 50 green mana and we put it into the archer, that's going to increase this archer to 84,704, which is an increase of 28,235 damage per second. Pretty significant. So with this information, we can just do the math and see that it would take a buff beam with 26.34 or 27 archers on it before it would be worth upgrading the buff beam before you upgraded just one individual skeleton. Now, here's an example, just so you can picture it, exactly what 27 archers on one buff beam would look like. And to be honest with you, I can't really think of a single map that this type of build would work on. However, pure archer awesomeness nonetheless, but it would take this type of ridiculous setup on a buff beam before you're going to want to put that 50 green mana into that buff beam, before you would put it into any single one of those archers. So I hope this clears some things up and answers some questions. I do get asked about this quite a bit, and I do see people upgrading buff beams quite a bit in public games before the defenses themselves are upgraded. So like I said, hope this helps everyone out, and we will see you soon. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, here's a couple more you might like. Support the Juicy Nation by becoming a patron, or mash that big J to subscribe to the channel. Thanks again. There's more action tower defense strategy, playthroughs, and awesome gaming hotness coming soon. See ya!